Over the last 20 years, Toyota has long been a leader in terms of hybrid technology with the first generation Toyota Prius. However, if you look at the sales figures of the Prius here in America, they've really tanked over the years, and it's simply because of battery electric vehicles and a little bit of cannibalization within Toyota's North American lineup. So today, I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina with two of the newest hybrid sedans within the Toyota lineup. This is the 2019 Toyota Camry Hybrid SE and the 2019 Toyota Avalon Hybrid Limited trim. So if you guys are looking for a hybrid sedan that doesn't look as frumpy as the Toyota Prius, which one of these two should you buy? That's what we're here to find out. So these are hybrid vehicles, so I want to first start off with underneath the hood. Now, both of these cars actually sport the same powertrain. They're both a 2.5 liter four-cylinder running on the Atkinson cycle. It makes 176 horsepower on its own. However, in the Camry, you get a combined total output of around 208 horsepower, which is pretty good numbers. It accounts for a 0 to 60 time in the low 8-second range, maybe even the high 7-second range. And Toyota says you'll get around 44 in the city, 47 on the highway. It all goes out through a continuously variable transmission. Front wheel drive is your only available drive wheels. Now, in contrast, the Avalon also has a 2.5 liter four-cylinder that runs on the Atkinson cycle, but this makes 7 more horsepower than the Camry for a total combined output of 215 horsepower. And the Avalon gets a slightly worse fuel economy. It's still rated at 43 in the city, 43 on the highway. It all goes out through a CVT. Front wheel drive is your only option. For those of you who are also keeping score of the weights, the Avalon, because it's a bigger vehicle, does weigh about 200 pounds more. This is around 3,700 pounds, while the Camry is around 3,500 pounds. So shutting the hood and looking at the rest of the design, you can see Toyota really shocked a lot of people when they introduced the new version of the Camry a couple of years ago and the new version of the Avalon last year. The grills of both vehicles are just massive. I mean, this one here is the limited Avalon, so it has a kind of a different finish to the grille instead of the mesh finish. Honestly, I still haven't quite warmed up to the grille design on the Avalon. I do like a couple of the features that you get here. The Avalon offers full LED headlights as standard. You also get sequential turn signals. You have LED daytime running lights. No actual fog lights in the Avalon's front end, which is the same thing on the Camry. Now, in contrast, the Camry, this is the SE hybrid Camry trim. You can see the Camry also comes standard with full LED headlights, LED low and high beams, but the turn signal is an incandescent design, and you also have no fog lights. I don't particularly like the finish that you get on the Camry's grille either, with this black, which is kind of like a matte finish black instead of like a piano black. And then you have the radar sensor integrated into the Toyota emblem. It's the same thing with the Avalon. So let me know in the comments below whether you prefer the styling of the Camry or the Avalon. I definitely prefer the Camry styling, but to me, both of them aren't particularly super handsome looking vehicles. So comparing an Avalon and a Camry in a Toyota showroom has long been something that a lot of car shoppers actually do. And the Avalon, you should always remember, is the bigger vehicle. Remember, this is kind of like the flagship in Toyota's lineup. And at 195.6 inches long, this is about 3 inches longer than the Camry. But these vehicles both ride on the TNGA-K platform. They're a front drive-based platform. The Avalon's wheelbase is also about 3 inches longer as well. And as you can see here, this limited grade tester that I'm showing you has an 18-inch wheel wrapped in 235 series tires. It's a pretty attractive looking wheel. You guys can option on for like an XSE trim if you'd like, or there's also a touring grade trim which has a 19-inch wheel, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, in relation to the Avalon, the Camry's design still also looks relatively attractive. From the side profile, these are really sleek looking sedans. Remember, Toyota made them lower and wider for their new generations. This SE version also has an 18-inch wheel. You can see it's a completely different look. It's got like a black painted inner spoke. It's also riding on 235 series tires. They roughly have the same suspension setup. You got struts on the front, multi-link in the back, and the Camry at 192 inches long is more of a mid-size car. Although if you look at the EPA classification, both are actually mid-size cars. The Avalon technically has a little bit more legroom in the rear, which is another reason why you may want to choose the Avalon if you want more space. So at the rear, I actually think that the Avalon looks a little bit better here. It just has a slightly more premium look to it. You can tell that this vehicle is a little bit wider. It's a little bit lower. You have these LED turn signals here, full LED taillights with sequential LED turn signals. You have the Avalon name kind of spelled out. This one here is the limited hybrid trim, so it's got full badging for there. And overall, it has a very upscale, very Lexus-like look to it. Now, in contrast, the Camry's look, we've seen this look for the last couple of years. This SE version tries to spice things up a little bit with the rear spoiler, the rear underbody kit, and then you got visible exhaust tips on the Camry, although because this is the hybrid, it only has a single exhaust outlet. Now, looking at the trunk capacity, hybrid sedans used to be compromised here in the past, and I'm happy to report that it's actually no longer the case. Both of these have pretty spacious trunks. The Camry's measures around 15 16.1 cubic feet of space. The seats, as you can see, completely fold flat, which is nice because the batteries have been repositioned to underneath the rear seats. While the Avalon has a little bit more space, because remember, this is the bigger vehicle, you're looking at around 16.1 cubic feet of space, so about an inch more cubic feet of space, and the seats also still fold down 60/40. So obviously these two cars are different from the outside, but let's take a look at the interior. Now, if you guys are looking for a full overview on the interior, be sure to click on the link in the description below. I've done a full overview on both the Camry and the Avalon, but so I'll just kind of briefly touch base on this interior. Now, looking at the Camry, you can see the Camry's dashboard hasn't changed. For 2019, the only big change that Toyota made was the fact that they added Apple CarPlay to this 8-inch infotainment system, which is a huge addition. It also has Amazon Alexa, but it does not have Android Auto. So if you guys are looking for Android Auto, you're gonna have to look at another brand. Now, this particular one here that I'm showing you is the SE trim. It does come standard with the company's smart key access system with push button start over there. And you can see it's a very nice interior. It feels relatively roomy. The materials in here are all soft touch. You have this stitching here on the dashboard here that's kind of the same soft text leather material that you get on the seats. The steering wheel, it tilts and telescopes, which is nice. It also offers a lot of adjustability, and the Camry has a sunroof, which you can also get a panoramic sunroof on the Camry, but not the hybrid. But you can't get a pano sunroof on the Avalon. Very strange marketing for Toyota. This one here also has a wireless phone charger. You have cup holders over here. You have 3-level heated seats. And then when you put the vehicle into reverse, you can see it gives you a backup camera. Toyota does offer the full 360 camera on the XLE version, which obviously my tester doesn't have. Toyota has really been updating the quality of their camera resolutions. This one here is definitely nice. It has parking sensors, but there are, obviously some competitors that have a slightly more crisper and clearer camera. So overall, the interior of the Camry is still very roomy, but let's hop into the Avalon and see how it compares. So hopping into the inside of the Avalon, obviously this isn't quite a fair comparison because I'm sitting in the Avalon Limited, and with this brown leather, the two-tone and the faux wood, it definitely feels more like a Lexus in this car than a Toyota, but it should because this car is almost $10,000 more at the base end. Now getting inside, shutting the door, I actually think the Avalon's door sounds a little bit more solid versus the Camry's, which had more of a hollow or thunk. Now to start it up, same thing as the Camry, you've got this push button start. Toyota actually puts like a silver accent here on the key, so it tries to make it look a little bit nicer. Now the big thing about the Avalon's interior, first of all, the design is completely different, and Toyota also sticks a 9-inch touchscreen in the Avalon, so you get a slightly bigger screen, which does make it look a little bit nicer. It also looks pretty good in the fact that it's kind of like a tablet style screen, but it doesn't stick up the way a tablet style screen does, like in a Ford Explorer, for example, which looks like an iPad that's been swapped in the wrong orientation for most people. Now the interior of this one, you can see it's got genuine stitching on the lower part of the dash. It's got soft touch materials, and just like the Camry, it also includes Apple CarPlay. Doesn't have Android Auto though, but you do get Amazon Alexa. Now another thing you're gonna notice, the Avalon does offer heated and cooled seats. You can't get the cooled seats in the Camry, but in the Camry you can get a panoramic sunroof, which you can't get on the Avalon. So overall, I think the cabin of the Avalon feels a little bit more roomy. The one thing you notice that's different, the dashboard feels a little bit lower. The hood also feels a little bit longer, but you definitely feel the increased width, and it just has a more open and airy feel to it. Now, when you put the vehicle into reverse, you can see this Avalon here has the full 360 camera because it's the limited trim. You can get this on the Camry, remember, and this one also has the heads-up display, which includes like a 10-inch display. That is, again, available on Camry. So there's a lot of mixing here of parts or features. Really, the only feature that the Avalon offers that the Camry doesn't is the cooled seat option, which some of you may prefer. And also, this one here has memory seats. It offers 2-person memory seats, which you cannot get on the Camry. So getting in the back seat of these cars, you can see the Camry's back seat is pretty spacious. I mean, Toyota classifies this as a midsize car. They say there's around 38 inches of legroom. It's practically the same as what you're going to get in the gas Camry. The floor here is not completely flat, but you do have 2 mat pockets. The materials here are hard touch plastic, which is kind of a downgrade from the front seats, but I do like the fact that there is a nice armrest here that folds down, but no rear seat vents. Now I keep in mind that this one here is the SE Camry. The XLE Camry, I believe, includes the rear seat vents, so if you guys are looking for those upscale touches, you may want to go over to the XLE trim. But let's hop into the backseat of the Avalon and see how it compares. So of course, with the Avalon being a slightly bigger vehicle, there is a little bit more space back here. And keep in mind, I'm also in the limited trim level. This is the highest trim, so this interior does look a lot nicer than the Camrys. Getting back here, Toyota says you get around 40 inches of legroom, so 2 more inches of legroom. So obviously, if you guys have taller friends, you need more space, this is the one you're gonna wanna get. The floor is still not completely flat, but this limited trim does include things like rear seat air vents, you have 1-level heated seats, you have 2 USB ports, which wasn't on that Camry. And then if you wanna fold down this, you have an armrest here with 2 cup holders, and I really like this brown interior. It really just spices things up. Now the door materials are also soft touch on the upper door panels here, which is a nice upgrade because even the Camry XLE will have hard touch plastic in the rear doors. So for the driving scene of the Camry versus Avalon, I have my drive partner Tommy here. You may recognize him from the Fast Lane car. Yeah. Say hi, Tommy. And I actually want to thank him because he's the one who's been helping me get some footage since my videographer is not here. So thank you, Tommy, for all your help. And to start off, we're going to drive the Camry, or I'm going to drive the Camry hybrid, and then we're going to switch. He's going to drive the Avalon hybrid. And Tommy, between the 2 cars, you prefer the Avalon a little bit more, correct? And yeah. That's perfectly fair because I think you called it like a budget Lexus, which it kind of is. I mean, it's the same platform. Now, I wanted to also point out the fact that we are in the XLE Camry this time because the SE looked better on camera. This one here is silver, but I wanted to show everyone here the differences of the interior, and really all you get is some fake wood. And you also get the 360 camera that this one has and the heads-up display, but still no memory seats, still no cooled seats, and no pano sunroof, just a standard size sunroof in this car.
You're right, and I think for the money, it is a good value, the Camry. I mean, you get a lot of car for what you're paying for, but the Avalon, it just brings it up another level.
It does. It definitely feels more luxurious and a little bit more special in the Avalon. But this one here is around $37,000. Okay. So it's still about $7 or $8 grand cheaper than that fully loaded Avalon that we were driving. And really, just driving the Camry hybrid, I'm quickly reminded why this thing, is probably outselling the Prius at this point, because it's a really conventional driving car, and it doesn't have the same frumpiness that you get from the Prius. I mean, this interior is very conventional, which I really appreciate. The steering is light, the seats are comfortable, the visibility in here is good. I just feel like I'm driving a normal car, which is, I think, what a lot of hybrid buyers are probably looking for.
Right, and I think, for someone buying the Prius, they know what they're getting themselves into, right? I mean, they're buying it because they want something a little different, and they want that crazy display,
right?
And they want that out there styling. Someone buying a Camry, though, like you said, it could just be the average guy or gal looking for fuel economy in a sedan.
Yeah, and really, I think the most appealing factor of the Camry, besides the look, is when you put your foot down, it actually...
That's pretty good.
It's pretty quick. I mean, this is like under 8 seconds to 60. It's way more responsive. The engine also doesn't scream. Like that Prius that we just drove, the engine just constantly was whining and was moaning, but it wasn't really going anywhere.
I have driven both the Camry and the Prius, and I actually prefer the brakes in the Prius just a little bit more.
Okay.
But, there goes your lane departure.
So this has the Toyota Safety Sense 2.0, and yes, it's kind of annoying how it beeps. You can turn that off if you'd like.
Does this have the backup beeping too when you put it in reverse?
Actually, I don't know. We'll have to test that out. I don't think it does, because I think that's a Prius thing.
Gotcha.
Because of that electronic shifter, which they really need to do without that. But
I think the ride is pretty sublime. I mean, it really does a good job of it. It's not sporty. I mean, no one's gonna confuse this for a TRD model.
No.
But it's not bad. I mean, it's not floaty either.
No, I mean, for a commuter car that gets over 40 miles to the gallon, that's really affordable, that has plenty of features in it. I mean, this is really an appealing car, and it's easy. It's pretty easy to see why Toyota sells over 50,000 of these every year, like when you compare it to the Camry mix.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge number. Well, sorry, I had to scratch my nose. I apologize. Edit that out. Rob. It really does go, though.
No, I'm actually genuinely, like, the first time I drove the Camry hybrid, I was like, this thing is pretty quick. Like, I perfectly fine with this. This is an appealing option over the gas-only 4-cylinder Camry, because it's not that much more expensive, but you get way better gas mileage, way better power. I mean, sure, the 6-cylinder Camry is even more appealing, but that thing kind of torque steers a lot because it's front-wheel drive. It has too much power, but this is like the perfect amount of power for most drivers, especially if you're just looking for a comfortable sedan.
So you've got the base model Camry with the 4-cylinder, you've got the hybrid, and there's also the V6 option.
Yeah.
Which of those three do you like the most?
I mean, I like the XSE V6 Camry because of the white exterior you can get with the red leather and the pano sunroof, the black roof. That to me is really appealing, so I guess I'm more, inclined to that. But if Toyota would offer that combination with the hybrid, I could see myself going for the hybrid, especially if I just wanted an inexpensive commuter car.
Yeah, no, I agree. And really, the magic here, I don't know if you can see this, guys, 46 miles per gallon combined. I mean, that first generation Prius that I was looking at earlier today, 41 combined by today's standards, and that second generation Prius, 46. So you've got so much more car than those old Priuses. Prii? Prii. In
New
the
word.
Camry. Yeah, exactly. And it's dead quiet. It'll be dead reliable. And it's got some fun features like that little wireless charging tray.
Yeah, I mean, the wireless charging is nice. You finally have the Apple CarPlay. Like the 360 camera on this one works well. The 10-inch head-up display is the same one you get in the Avalon. So if you can just give up memory seats and cooled seats, I mean, this is an appealing option if you want to save a lot of money.
What do you think of this dash design? Because it's starting to look just a little bit dated. I mean, you have this kind of interesting swoop, which is nice, and you've got this little cubby, but it doesn't look as premium or as modern as I think the Avalon does.
Dang, I really wanted to race that Sonata. Just kidding. It's, you know what? I definitely think that it hasn't aged quite as well. When this first came out, I was unsure about like this thick area right here. I just thought it was unnecessary. But some people may prefer the fact that it's not like a tablet that sticks out. But the Avalon is also a pretty well done one because it doesn't look like an eyesore the way it's kind of sticking out. So,
right.
I mean, I think I'm not entirely sure what Toyota could do because I guess the Camry is due for a refresh maybe in 2021. So it's kind of like, what are they going to do? Are they going to make the screen larger? Are they going to really, like, how could they make the screen larger without completely redesigning the dash and such? Because the way this is laid out, it's really meant for an 8-inch screen.
No, you're right. That's a really good point. Okay, Sophia, now I'm demonstrating the coolest part of any hybrid, and that's, well, mind the turn signal. It's the quietness, right? I mean, I'm in EV mode right now, and it's so silent.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a huge selling factor when hybrids first came out. Is like, look, I can, cruise along at low speeds on electric power alone, and nobody can hear me. So
what you're saying is I'm stuck in 2001, which is probably true.
No, it's not that it was cool, but now that hybrids are so common, and full electric cars are here, it's kind of like that's what they do. Now, it only is appealing to somebody who's never driven a hybrid.
Right.
Like, if you've never driven one, this is very, very cool. But obviously, we can see we have switched to the Avalon Limited, and I'm already enjoying it more because I have cooled seats.
Yeah,
I have
right?
that on right now. It's really nice. And this interior, compared to even that XLE Camry, is way different.
Way better, in my opinion.
Yeah, like, you really get a sense that Toyota is trying harder here. They wanted it to feel like a luxury car, and this is like a budget Lexus in here.
Yeah.
Even the wood trim looks way more convincing than that stuff that the Camry had.
And let's talk about the seats, because the seats, not only is it real soft leather, it's also far more comfortable than the Camry seats. They're just more supportive in places they need to be, and they're just also softer in places where they need to be.
Yeah, the Camry seats were hard. I did notice that the seats were a little bit hard, and then you have more adjustability. You have the 2-person memory here, so clearly, for your extra $8,000 that this one has, there is a big difference that you're getting here. It's just a matter of, are you willing to pay for that extra money? And
I think there's like two approaches you can take with the Avalon, right? I mean, the first approach you can take is it's not as exciting as some of its competition, and it's a little bit, I hate to say it, but old manny, right?
Yeah.
But the other approach you can take is Toyota, in a lot of ways, has perfected the American luxury car. It's a large sedan that just floats down the road in absolute silence, and that, I think, is worth a tremendous amount of money to a lot of people. And I'm not talking about people in advanced age. I'm talking about someone my age who can just cruise down the interstate in this car at 65, 75 with no sound, with no vibration, with no bumps.
True. Well, to be fair, Tommy, you are kind of like an old soul.
I am a very old soul. Yes. Do we have Glenn Miller on this fancy computer thing?
Like, it's always funny whenever I'm like with you and your dad, because your dad's all about like the tech, and you're like, I prefer the classic thing of this, and I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, shouldn't this be swapped? Like,
I mean, in my mind, right? This is like a really comfortable, really refined, extremely well-made Cadillac Eldorado in all the best ways. It's just, and yeah, it actually will take a turn without falling over, but it doesn't inspire you to drive it quickly. It's not the TRD model, but for, American roads, which are wide and long and never-ending, this is the kind of car you want, and the Camry doesn't bring you to that level.
No, it doesn't. And also, when you're just behind the wheel of this car, you feel how it's a little bit wider, a little bit longer. Like, it kind of gives you, like you said, that American feel, that American luxury feel, because this is like very much a modern-day Buick. The Avalon has always been kind of a better modern-day Buick,
right?
Or at least the Japanese Buick. And Buick is doing some good stuff, but I still think I might prefer this, like, over like the LaCrosse or something like that.
No, I think you're spot on. It's so well made. Now, let's give it, what's an old-termy word? Some beans. All right. it goes.
Do you feel that extra 7 horsepower?
No, but I do feel the extra weight and the extra size. It's definitely there. It's not a sporty car. And no part of this is saying German luxury, but I love that they didn't chase a German luxury because, like, where are we right now? We're in Greensboro, North Carolina. Why does the Nürburgring matter at a stoplight in Greensboro, North Carolina? It doesn't.
Doesn't matter at all.
What do you think of this kind of upright center stack? So it's much, you could almost say less integrated than the Camry. It kind of just juts out, but is it better?
I mean, I like that the screen is larger, and I like how I do feel that it's easier to reach the buttons because like everything is placed a little bit higher. But I also don't like how the buttons are kind of small.
They are small.
Like they're a little bit too small for my taste. But I do find the design to be appealing. I think it's different enough to where, you know, it warrants that this is not supposed, or at least Toyota tries to fool you. They're not the same car, but they are. But they've just done a much better job of differentiating the Avalon and the Camry.
No.
Versus years past.
You're spot on, but like, look how tiny that cool seat button is, or that ventilated seat.
It's a little too small, and which is funny because, you know, the older people who supposedly buy these, they might complain like, why is this so small? I can't see very well. Right. The actual buttons. So it's an interesting design, but I do think it's very clean. You can kind of get into this and you know how to use it for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. And if you do want a more youthful model, they make a TRD version of this and the Camry.
Which I haven't driven the TRD version yet. But
yeah.
I saw your guys' video of it from the drive. And I didn't go because I was at another event, but it sounded pretty good.
It sounds pretty good, right? So this would compete with something like, well, the Ford Taurus is dead, I suppose.
Yeah, and the Impala is going away.
And the Charger's around still.
Charger's around, but I wouldn't compare the hybrid model to a Charger. I mean I guess the six-cylinder is like, do people really cross-shop this with a Charger? I don't know. Like,
yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you're talking about a vehicle that's the ultimate refinement and efficiency in this case, and then 700 horsepower of being slapped in the face.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, really, the only competitor that I see is the Cadenza, the Kia Cadenza, and that's like one of the last. Like this and the Maxima and the Cadenza. Those are the last 3 of the big full-size sedans. But the Maxima is weird because it's actually smaller than the new Altima.
Right.
Like, it's like an inch shorter, so it's not really...
Funny?
Yeah, it's not really considered a full-size sedan. But, I mean, there is definitely something really appealing. I actually think I might prefer the Avalon Hybrid over the gas V6, to be honest, because the last Avalon V6 that I drove, it just had too much power. Like,
why not? I mean, this is not... You don't buy this car to go fast.
No,
you buy
don't.
this car for refinement, and this is kind of the ultimate in refinement.
Yeah. Do you feel like this has more refinement than the Camry Hybrid?
Oh, yes, far more. I would argue this has as much refinement as like a Lexus ES. I mean, just everything is so well screwed together in here. One thing you did point out, which is 100% true, I would love to see this available with all-wheel drive.
Yes, because like the Avalon V6, I complain that it needs all-wheel drive. The hybrid model, they could easily add the all-wheel drive feature because when you are more expensive than the Camry or a class above, you know, you're supposed to be the flagship. I think Toyota needs that all-wheel drive selling feature, and it's perplexing as to why they haven't added it. But even the Lexus version doesn't have all-wheel drive still. But I mean, if Toyota can continue to sell, you know, thousands and thousands of these, the Camry and the ES without all-wheel drive, that's kind of like more power to them.
No, I think you're absolutely spot on. And, you know, we can talk about how the steering isn't all that precise and how the brakes stop the car but don't inspire a lot of confidence. But once again, it's like I
don't think it matters in this
doesn't matter,
segment.
no.
What matters in this segment is comfortable seats, great technology.
It's that. That's what matters.
That gangster lean in the seat while you're driving.
That's the Andre lean. That's the American way, you know? And this car is perfect for that. Can't be any better.
So choosing between the hybrid Camry and hybrid Avalon is kind of like trying to choose between their gas counterparts. I mean, both vehicles are really nice sedans to drive. They're really comfortable, they're really spacious. They also look a lot better than their predecessors. And as you guys saw, they also drive a lot better from their predecessors. But trying to pick between the two is kind of a difficult proposition for some of you, especially if you guys prefer something that's a bigger sedan. Obviously, the Camry is a little bit more common. Toyota sells roughly over 50,000 Camry hybrids every year. And this is a really strong seller for them, and it's probably stealing a lot of sales from the Prius simply because you can get basically Prius-like fuel economy on the LE trim for similar money versus the Prius, but the Avalon in general definitely has a much better luxury factor to me. I mean, you guys saw the interior of this Limited, looks great. They both accelerate pretty similarly, although you do feel the higher weight in the Avalon and the fact that this is slightly slower because this is the heavier car. But for me, the value quotient has to come into play because the Camry starts at around $28,000 for the base LE, while this starts at around $36,000. So you're looking at an $8,000 difference. I'm just not entirely sure this is worth $8,000 more car. Now, both of these cars also are not fully loaded, at least the Camry's not. This one here stickers for about $45,000, which is a lot of money, while this Camry here is around $33,000. Keep in mind though, if you guys are gonna go for an XLE hybrid Camry, you're gonna pay around $37,000. So the hybrid versions of both cars only have roughly about $1,000 difference in price versus their gas counterparts, and you do get a lot of fuel economy, but I think between the two, my money would just go for the Camry because you get this, a little bit better gas mileage, similar acceleration, pretty similar features on the interior, and you're also not spending way too much money versus the Avalon. I think at $45,000 is slightly overpriced. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my comparison between the 2019 Camry Hybrid and the 2019 Toyota Avalon Hybrid. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.